War has changed. On the battlefield, ground troops can only do so much, but the moment a soldier radios in for air support, everything changes. Within minutes, the sky rumbles, and before the enemy even knows what's coming, the battlefield is reduced to rubble. Buildings collapse, armored convoys are torn apart, and entire cities can be wiped off the map, all at the hands of a single squadron. But what are these machines of destruction? Which warplanes strike the most fear into those on the ground? And what are the deadliest military aircraft ever built? Buckle up, folks, because we're about to find out. Before I talk about this plane, look at this. That's right, this is the AC-130. When it comes to military aircraft, there's one rule you should never forget: the nicknames never lie. You should already begin to understand how terrifying this plane is when its name is quite literally the Angel of Death. Sporting other colorful nicknames like Spooky and Ghost Rider, the AC-130 is a flying battleship designed to rain destruction from the sky. At 97 feet long with a 132-foot wingspan, it's about the size of a Boeing 737 or 3 school buses parked end to end. Sure, it moves slowly at about 300 miles per hour or 482 kilometers per hour. Don't be deceived, for this plane's speed is not the point. The goal here is sheer power and destruction. I mean, this thing loiters over battlefields, circling like a vulture, and does this. As you might have already picked up by now, its firepower is what makes it terrifying. For one, the 105mm howitzer is literally an artillery cannon mounted on a plane, capable of obliterating buildings and vehicles with a single shot. Then there's the 40mm Bofors autocannon, firing rounds the size of soda bottles at 120 rounds per minute, while the 25mm GAU-12 Gatling gun spits out 1,800 rounds per minute like a fire hose of destruction. To make things even deadlier, the new AC-130J Ghost Rider adds precision-guided Hellfire missiles, GBU-39 bombs, and AGM-176 Griffin missiles, turning it into a long-range executioner. The AC-130 has been a nightmare for enemy forces in every major U.S. conflict since Vietnam. In Vietnam and Laos, it provided close air support, defending outposts and annihilating enemy convoys along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. In the Gulf War, it wiped out Iraqi armored vehicles and ground forces with pinpoint accuracy. It even played a major role in Afghanistan, supporting special forces and taking out Taliban strongholds. In Iraq, it turned the tide in urban combat, obliterating enemy positions during battles in Fallujah and Mosul. Even more recently, it has been used against ISIS in Syria, with footage showing it reducing entire compounds to rubble in seconds. To make things even worse, this plane fights dirty, striking in total darkness using infrared sensors and radar that see everything before the enemy even knows it's there. It doesn't just attack, it hunts. Instead of quick airstrikes, the AC-130 loiters for hours, refueling midair and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. By the time you hear its guns, it's already too late. Against ground forces, it's an unstoppable airborne executioner, proof that slow and steady doesn't just win the race, it dominates the battlefield. But if slow and steady isn't your pace, the classic rumble of the next plane might just put the fear of God in you. The A-10 Thunderbolt II, better known as the Warthog, is a flying tank built for one purpose: shredding ground targets. And let's just say it takes this job super seriously. With its now iconic Bert sound, this plane is not to be messed with. Standing at 53 feet long with a 57-foot wingspan, it's roughly the size of a city bus, but armored like a tank. It flies at 420 miles per hour or 675 kilometers per hour. Not fast for a jet, but that's because, like the Angel of Death, speed is not the point. The A-10 is designed to loiter over battlefields, take insane amounts of damage, and keep fighting. But perhaps its most terrifying feature is the GAU-8 Avenger, a 30mm rotary cannon that spits out depleted uranium shells at 3,900 rounds per minute. That's 65 rounds per second, each capable of ripping through tanks like tin cans. The cannon is so powerful that the plane was literally built around it. On top of that, it carries air-to-ground missiles, laser-guided bombs, and rockets, making it a one-plane wrecking crew. It's been so efficient that the Warthog has been deployed in every major U.S. conflict since the Cold War. It was stationed in Europe to counter Soviet tank divisions, but its first real combat was in the Gulf War, where it destroyed over 900 Iraqi tanks. Like the AC-130, it also played a crucial role in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, providing close air support for ground troops. It's been stationed at bases worldwide, including Osan Air Base in South Korea, Spangdahlem in Germany, and Davis-Monthan in Arizona. But what makes it even scarier is the fact that it refuses to die, with titanium armor, self-sealing fuel tanks, and engines spaced apart to survive hits. A-10s have returned to base with shredded wings and missing landing gear. All in all, this plane is a beast, and the sound of its gun, brrrt, is the last thing many enemies hear. It's slow, ugly, and old, but on the battlefield, nothing else delivers destruction with such brutal efficiency. The F-117 Nighthawk is the world's first operational stealth aircraft designed to be invisible to radar and strike deep into enemy territory. At 66 feet long with a 43-foot wingspan, it's about the size of a private jet, but shaped like a jagged alien spaceship. Unlike most planes, it doesn't carry machine guns or dogfight. Its entire purpose is sneaking in, dropping precision bombs, and disappearing before anyone knows what happened. Where other planes specialize in sheer destruction, the F-117's firepower is all about accuracy. It carries 2 laser-guided bombs, usually the GBU-27 Paveway 3, or GBU-10 capable of destroying bunkers, command centers, and key targets with pinpoint precision. While it doesn't carry missiles or cannons, its stealth and deadly accuracy make it one of the most feared aircraft ever built. Stationed primarily at Tonopah Test Range and later Holman Air Base in New Mexico. The F-117 made history in 1989 during the invasion of Panama, taking out high-value targets with precision strikes. Its biggest moment, however, came in the Gulf War, where it flew 1,300 missions, striking key Iraqi infrastructure while enemy radars failed to detect it. It later saw action in Kosovo and Iraq, proving its effectiveness in modern warfare. Despite its stealth, however, it wasn't invincible. In fact, in 1999, a Serbian missile shot one down, the first and only combat loss of an F-117. But its impact was undeniable. Though retired in 2008, sightings suggest the U.S. still operates a few for secret missions. Unlike other jets that rely on speed or firepower, the F-117 was terrifying for a different reason. It struck from the shadows, and by the time you realized it was there, it was already too late. Okay, so almost every aviation lover knows the SR-71 Blackbird. But this plane wasn't just a spy plane, it was a legend that defied physics. Built in the 1960s at the height of the Cold War, it was designed to do one thing: outrun anything that tried to stop it. At 107 feet long with a 55-foot wingspan, it was about the size of a semi-truck, but its sleek alien-like design made it look more like something out of a sci-fi movie. This thing was fast, unbelievably fast. With a top speed of Mach 3.3, over 2,200 miles per hour, the Blackbird could cross the entire U.S. in under an hour. It flew so high, about 85,000 feet, nearly 3 times the altitude of commercial jets, that pilots had to wear spacesuits. But that wasn't even the craziest part. Even though enemy radars could detect it, by the time they launched a missile, the SR-71 was already gone. It was a ghost. And throughout history, no Blackbird was ever shot down. Not bad for a craft whose defense strategy was simple: just don't get hit. Unlike fighter jets loaded with weapons, the Blackbird's power came from its cameras and sensors, which could map entire countries in minutes. It was stationed at Beale Air Force Base in California and Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, flying top-secret reconnaissance missions over the Soviet Union, Vietnam, North Korea, and the Middle East. It gathered intel during the Cold War, monitored nuclear threats, and even played a role in tracking terrorist activity before its retirement in 1999. Everything about the Blackbird was extreme. It leaked fuel on the ground because its titanium skin expanded mid-flight. The engines were so powerful that the exhaust alone could melt asphalt. It could fly coast to coast on a single tank, if that tank held 12,000 gallons of fuel. Even today, nothing has truly replaced it. The SR-71 wasn't just an aircraft, it was a glimpse into the future, built decades ahead of its time. And yes, perhaps one of these scariest things to ever cross the sky. Now, if you're wondering what the Soviets replied to this plane was, stay tuned, because that plane was a beast. The MiG-25 Fox-Bat was the Soviet Union's answer to an American ghost. When the US unveiled the high-speed, high-flying B-70 Valkyrie bomber and the mysterious SR-71 Blackbird, the Soviets needed something that could hunt them down. And so they introduced the Fox-Bat, a brutal, no-nonsense interceptor built for one thing: raw speed. At 64 feet long with a 46-foot wingspan, it was about the size of a city bus. But it wasn't built for elegance, it was built to go fast, powered by two monstrous Tamansky R-15 engines. The MiG-25 could hit speeds of Mach 2.8 or 2,190 miles per hour, with reports of pilots pushing it past Mach 3.2, though at the cost of nearly destroying the engines. Flying at 80,000 feet, it could almost touch the edge of space, and it was a reason to fear the USSR. You see, the Fox-Bat wasn't nimble, it was a flying missile, armed with 4 R-40 air-to-air missiles, some infrared, some radar-guided. It was designed to take down high-altitude bombers and reconnaissance aircraft before they could strike Soviet territory. It had no cannons, no dogfighting ability, just pure, terrifying speed and long-range firepower. In fact, the West first got a real look at the MiG-25 when Soviet pilot Viktor Belenko defected to Japan in 1976, landing his Fox-Bat on a civilian airstrip. What they found shocked them. It wasn't high-tech, its avionics were outdated, and the airframe was made of steel, not titanium. But none of that mattered. The sheer velocity and altitude of the MiG-25 made it one of the most feared interceptors of the Cold War. It saw combat in the Middle East, flying for Iraq, Syria, and Libya. In fact, Iraqi MiG-25s famously shot down U.S. aircraft during the Gulf War, one even downing an FA-18 Hornet. Even today, some countries still operate modified versions of the Fox-Bat, proving that sometimes brute force and blistering speed are all you need to be a legend. But if that fails, all you need is a lot of bombs and a little spirit to finish the job. The B-2 Spirit isn't just a bomber, it's a monster. Designed to slip past enemy defenses completely undetected, this $2 billion flying wing is one of the most advanced warplanes ever built. With its eerie, alien-like shape, the B-2 doesn't just avoid radar, it absorbs and deflects it, making it nearly invisible. If you see it, it's probably too late. At 69 feet long with a massive 172-foot wingspan, it's as wide as a football field but lacks a traditional tail or fuselage, making it look more like a UFO than an aircraft. Despite its size, it flies at Mach 0.95, about 630 kilometers per hour, and can reach 50,000 feet, all while being completely silent to ground defenses. But stealth was just the beginning. The real horror was its firepower. The B-2 can carry 80 500-pound bombs or 16 nuclear warheads, capable of wiping out cities in a single mission. It also deploys bunker-busting bombs, cruise missiles, and GPS-guided munitions, allowing it to strike with terrifying accuracy. Unlike traditional bombers that need fighter escorts, the B-2 doesn't need protection. It can sneak in, destroy targets, and vanish before the enemy even knows what hit them. First stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, the B-2 has been deployed in Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, and Syria. It was responsible for the opening strikes in Iraq and has been used in highly classified operations worldwide. This plane can fly 6,000 miles non-stop and can go on indefinitely with refueling, meaning it can take off from the US, bomb a target anywhere in the world, and return home without ever being seen. Despite being built in the 1980s, the B-2 remains unmatched. Its only real weakness, sadly, is its cost. With only 21 ever built, each one is worth more than a small country's GDP. But when it comes to stealth warfare, nothing else comes close. And there you have it, the deadliest, most legendary aircraft ever to take to the skies. Each one was designed with a singular purpose: dominate the battlefield. From the slow and merciless AC-130 to the stealthy F-117 and the brutal A-10 and the untouchable SR-71, these machines have rewritten the rules of aerial warfare. Some strike from the shadows, some rain down destruction, and some simply outrun death itself. But one thing's for sure: when these planes show up, the battle is already over. And guess what? We're just getting started. There are plenty more deadly warbirds to cover, from legendary bombers to cutting-edge fighters, so stay tuned. Which one is your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like and subscribe, because trust me, there's way more to come. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies.